Bales of Hay, and a young boy, 10 years of age, by the name of Willie Kilmer. Willie Kilmer lived with his mom and dad out on a small farm, a few miles out from a small town. Willie loved the game of baseball. That was one of the things he wanted to do more than anything in the world, is to play baseball. But Willie just didn't have enough time to practice because his dad had him do all types of little things around the house, and his dad wasn't too interested in baseball, and Willie didn't have anybody close to his farm that he could play baseball with. The only time he could practice is when he was in town at the school with the rest of the team, and he didn't have a chance to practice in between, so therefore Willie was not really the best player on the team. In fact, you might say he sat at the end of the bench. But Willie never gave up. He collected baseball cards, he listened to baseball games on the radio, and he just loved to read about baseball in the newspapers and what the teams were doing, and he was a real strong rooter for his baseball team, the Yellow Jackets. They were a good bunch of kids, and they were all around Willie's age. But Willie had a big problem. How could he get better? He didn't know how he could get better. He talked to his daddy about possibly playing with him, but Dad said, I don't know anything about baseball, plus I'm too busy. I've got to get all these things done around the house. I've got to get out here in the fields and plant the corn and plow, and I've got to do all these things. He said, you play with somebody else. And Willie said, but I don't have anybody else to play with. And he said, well, go out and throw the ball up in the air, and maybe, he said, you'll get better playing baseball by doing that. And Willie said, oh, okay, Dad, if that's the way it is, okay. Willie was pretty discouraged, and he knew that the big game was coming up in a couple of weeks, and he knew that he probably wouldn't get to play because he never did. He only played once all year, and that was when they were so far ahead that it didn't matter if he didn't hit the ball or he didn't catch the ball. His team wasn't going to lose anyway. But he was still encouraged that his team was good. The Yellow Jackets played hard. And finally, after 2 weeks, the big game was coming up on Saturday morning. And Willie had another problem. How is he going to get to the game? So he asked his dad Friday morning, he said, Dad, I got a big game tomorrow. And Dad said, well, I don't know if I'll be able to take you in. You might have to miss it. And Willie said, but it's the biggest game of the year. We're playing one of the best teams, and we have a chance to beat them. And his dad said, well, he said, you don't play that much anyway. They might not miss you. And Willie said, but I want to see the game. And his dad said, well, we'll see. And finally, it's Friday afternoon. His dad came into Willie's room, and he said, Willie, it looks like it's going to be raining tomorrow morning, and I won't be able to plow the field out back. He said, so I'm going to go in town and get some supplies at the general store, and what I'll do is drop you off at the baseball field by the school, go over and get my supplies, and come back and pick you up. And Willie said, oh, boy, thanks, Dad. I really appreciate that. Boy, was Willie excited. He was going to be able to go to the game after all. Oh, he was so excited he could hardly eat dinner. He was just really thrilled. He just hoped that his team would do real well tomorrow in the big game. And that evening, Willie said, well, good night, Mom, good night, Dad. And they said, well, did you brush your teeth and wash up real well? And he said, yes, I did. And he said, I'm all ready for bed. But Willie hopped into bed, and he kissed his Mom and Dad goodnight, and he hopped into bed, and he laid there thinking about the big game. Oh, wow. He could hardly sleep because it was so exciting. Tomorrow is going to be the game, the last game of the year, and it's going to be the game to determine who's going to be the best team of all the teams. Oh boy, was Willie excited. Pretty soon, he was laying there, and he heard a knock on the window, his bedroom window. And he went over to the bedroom window, and there was a man standing there in a funny-looking uniform. The funniest-looking thing was just really different. It was unusual. Willie's never seen anything like that, really. And he said, what do you want? And the man spoke through the window, and he said, Willie, Willie, I want you to come out here. There's some things I want you to practice on. And Willie said, well, I don't know you. I don't know you at all. He said, why should I come out there? And the man said, well, I know a little something about baseball. He said, I think I can teach you a few things. And Willie said, better not. And the man said, tomorrow's the big game. And he said, you want to know as much as you can? And Willie said, well, I'm not too sure. And he said, come on, Willie, come on. Get your glove, get your bat, get your hat, and get your baseball, and come on out. And so Willie opened the window, and he crawled out the window with his hat and his baseball bat and his mitt and his baseball. And the man said, I want to show you some things I don't want you to forget, and it's going to help you to be a better baseball player. And Willie said, well, who are you? What's your name? And the man said, just call me Ty. And he said, well, Mr. Ty, he said, is that like a necktie? And the man that said, just call me Ty, said, well, you can think that. He said, just call me Ty. And Willie said, okay, Mr. Ty. And so the man said, the first thing I want you to do is to help me. And Willie said, help you? Help you do what? And he said, follow me. And they went into the barn, and they picked up a big bale of hay. And he said, you get on one end, Willie, and I'll get on the other end. And they carried it out, and they set it right beside the side of the barn. And they went in, and they got the second bale and brought it out and put it on top. And they went in and got the third bale and brought it out and set it on top. And Willie said, what's this for? And Mr. Ty said, that's a backstop. And Willie said, what? And he said, well, if I want to throw the ball to see if you can hit it or catch it, he said, in case that the ball goes past you, it'll hit the bales of hay. And it won't hurt the baseball, because if the baseball hit the hard side of a barn, it would make dents in the baseball, and it would hurt the baseball. And he said also, it won't make too much noise, so we won't wake up your parents. And Willie said, oh, okay. And so the man said, okay, put your glove on and stand in front of the bales of hay, and I'm going to throw you some balls. And so the man got back. He stepped back so many paces, he knew exactly where to stand. And he started throwing the balls real easy to Willie. And Willie caught a couple, but he dropped most of them, or he would close his eyes when the ball got close to him. And Willie really didn't know what to do. And the man said, Mr. Ty said, Willie, this is the first thing I want you to remember. He said, always stay in front of the baseball. Always stay in front of the baseball. He said, in case you miss, he said, your body can stop the baseball. And he said, that way the baseball doesn't get past you and you have to run after it. He said, you'll always have it in front of you. And he said, sometimes it's hard to remember that. So he said, remember one thing, always stay in front of the baseball. And Willie said, okay, Mr. Ty, I'll try. And so Mr. Ty kept throwing the balls to him, one after another. He kept throwing them. He kept throwing them. Willie would catch him, and he'd catch him, and the more he caught him, the better he got. And Mr. Ty kept throwing those balls, and they get faster, faster, and faster. And Willie felt that he was really getting pretty good. And Mr. Ty said, don't forget, stay in front of the ball. And so pretty soon Willie felt really confident that he knew how to catch the ball. No one had ever taught him this. It was really great. And so Willie said, oh boy, this is neat. And the man said, okay, now I'm going to throw the ball on the ground right to you. And he said, I want you to pick it up off the ground and catch it. And so he did this several times, and he would throw the ball on the ground, and it would go to Willie. And Willie would catch it, and he stayed in front of it. And now and then he'd miss one, but the ball would always stay in front of him, because it would maybe hit him on the leg or hit him in the tummy, but it would always stay in front of him. And Willie never let the ball get away from him. And Willie said, thank you, Mr. Ty. This really helps. This really helps. He said, boy, if I ever get into a baseball game, I'll know what to do. And Mr. Ty said, well, we've got a lot more to learn than just catching the ball. He said, let's see you throw the ball. So Mr. Ty got up by the bales, and Willie got back in the barn lot, and he started throwing the ball. And he said, now remember one thing, when you throw the ball, always look at the person or the object you're throwing to. Always keep your eye on that. And he said, if you keep your eye on that, your arm and the ball will automatically go that direction. And he said, and let your arm go completely the full length all the way out before you release it. Don't release it over your head, or don't release it beside your body. Let it go all the way through the full arm stroke, and that way the ball will go straight. And Willie, the first 2 or 3 times threw the ball, and it kind of went different directions. And he said, now remember, let your arm go straight out in front of you. And so finally Willie started doing that. And the more he did it, the straighter the ball went, and the faster the ball went. And Mr. Ty said, Willie, you're getting it now. That's the way to do it. You are doing it the right way. And he said, oh, Mr. Ty, he said, this is really great. I really appreciate your help. And Mr. Ty said, hey, the next thing we're going to work on is batting. And Willie said, oh, he said, I can't hit the ball. He said, the coach said that I'll never learn how to hit the ball the way I swing the bat. And he's tried to show me some things, but he never has time because he spends times with the players that are a lot better than I am. And Mr. Ty said, well, let's just try a few things. He said, number one thing I've always mentioned before, when you're catching the ball, to keep your eye on the ball and stay in front of it. Now, when you're batting the ball, keep your eye on the ball. The minute it is released from the pitcher, keep your eye on the ball all the way till it comes over to the plate, the home plate, and that's where you're going to be hitting it. He said, okay, now put the bat in your hands, and he showed him how to hold the bat. And he said, okay, now put it up so that you're getting ready to swing at the baseball. And so Willie put it up on his shoulder, and he said, no, don't put it on your shoulder. He said, raise it above your shoulder. Raise it above your shoulder. Keep your elbows straight out in front of you. And he said, keep a firm grip on that. But he said, the main thing is to keep your eye on the ball. And he said, now step back just a little bit, because he said, you don't want to stand on top of the plate. You want to stand back of the plate. So when you swing, the bat will be going across the plate. And hopefully the ball will be going across the plate at the same time, and therefore you can hit it. And Willie said, well, that makes sense. I'll try it. And so he threw Willie several balls, and every time Willie would strike at it, he'd miss it a mile. And Mr. Ty said, you know what your problem is, Willie? He said, you're making a big dip with your bat, just like you're dipping a pail of water out of a bucket or something. He said, no. He said, you keep the bat flat. Keep it as flat or as parallel as possible to the ground. Keep your eye on the ball and swing that bat straight across the base. Don't make the big dip. And he said, every time you dip, you miss the ball. But he said, if you swing it straight across the plate, he said, you have a better chance of hitting the ball. And so Mr. Ty would throw the ball fairly easily, so it wouldn't be too hard, and Willie would hit it every now and then, but not very hard, because Willie didn't know too well, or he wasn't too sure exactly what he was doing. And Mr. Ty kept working with him and kept telling him, keep your eye on the ball, keep the bat off your shoulder, turn your body just right, just like I showed you, hold the bat right at the right end of the correct spot on the end of the bat. Don't choke up too much. Don't hold it too far on the end. Just right there is where I showed you is the best place that you can do it. And so Willie would try and try and try, and Mr. Ty would constantly throw the ball, and he would try harder and harder, and pretty soon he started hitting the ball fairly consistently. Not hard, but he would hit it, and it would bounce back to Mr. Ty, and he would get it, and he would throw it up there again. And pretty soon Mr. Ty said, I think I could throw the ball a little harder. Let's see if you can hit it now. And he would throw the ball a little harder, and Willie would miss it every now and then. Most of the time he'd miss it, really. And it hit the bales of hay, and Willie would throw the ball back to Mr. Ty. And they kept doing that, and pretty soon Mr. Ty said, I think your swing is getting better. Keep your eye on the ball. And he said, bend over, bend your knees slightly, keep your legs separated, and remember, swing the bat flat to the ground. Make it even with the ground. Don't make the big dip with your bat. Make it even. And Willie said, okay, I'll try real hard. I'll try to remember that. And finally he said, okay, I'm going to throw you some hard ones. And he threw one, he threw two, he threw about 3 hard ones. And pretty soon, Willie smacked that ball and it went all the way across the barn lot. And Mr. Ty said, that was a great hit. Let's try it again. And so he threw another one. He hit it twice, straight across, and Willie said, this is fun. He said, boy, am I glad you showed me how to hit the baseball. And Mr. Ty said, right now, it takes practice in remembering some of the basic things. Stay in front of the ball when you're catching it. When you're throwing it, extend your arm completely out. And when you're hitting it, keep your eye on the ball. And Willie said, Mr. Ty, he said, I really appreciate this. This is really great. Mr. Ty said, I think it's time that you better get back in your bedroom and get some sleep because you got the big game tomorrow. And Willie said, that's right. We're playing a real good team, and I hope the Yellow Jackets will beat it tomorrow. That's the name of our team. And Mr. Ty said, good luck, Willie, good luck. And so he helped him climb back in the window, and Willie went over and crawled into bed to go back to sleep. And Willie was thinking about that hit. He remembered, keep that even. Keep that bat even and hit it straight. Oh, he remembered that so well, and he said, I hit it. Boy, do I feel good. I hit it. And pretty soon something was shaking Willie. And Willie looked up and he said, Dad, what do you want? And Dad said, well, this is the morning. This is time for you to get up and get ready to go to the ball game this morning. And Willie said, oh, really? And he said, you must have been having a dream, Willie. He said, when I came in the room, you kept saying, I hit it. And Willie said, I did? He said, yes, I was having a dream, Dad. And he said, it was a real good dream. It was about baseball. And Dad said, well, that doesn't surprise me. He said, you really like the game of baseball. And he said, maybe someday you'll be able to get into one of the games. Who knows? You never know. So he said, hurry and get dressed. He said, I'll be going pretty soon. So Willie got dressed. He had his breakfast and everything, and he thought, before I go, I think I'm going to go in and look at my baseball cards. So he went in and he started going through his baseball cards, and he had a bunch of them. Oh, I bet you he had 100 cards. And pretty soon he came to a card that this man looked really familiar. And he had that funny-looking uniform or outfit on that the man in the barnyard had. In fact, it was the same one. And on the card it said, Ty Cobb, 1928. He retired from baseball. He was called the Georgia Peach. All this was written on the baseball card. And it went on to say he had a lifetime batting average of 367 hits. Percentage. He played for the Detroit Tigers for 22 years. Wow. And he was in 3 World Series. Man, he was really something special. And guess what? He was a right field outfielder. That's the same position that Willie played. Isn't that something? This guy that was in the dream played in the same position that Willie hoped to play someday. So his dad said, ready to go, Willie? And Willie said, yes, I am. And so he grabbed his mitt, his ball, and his bat, jumped into the pickup truck with his dad, and went into town. And there the team was, all gathered together, and Willie ran over to the team, and they all were throwing the ball back and forth, and the kid that he was throwing the ball with said, Willie, boy, you're throwing the ball real well today. He said, you must have been practicing. And Willie kind of smiled and said, yeah, I did. But he couldn't say I practiced in my dream. But he said, yeah, I've been kind of practicing a little bit. And so the game started, and it was a great game, and it was a very close game. In fact, the score was 2-2 going into the 6th inning. And Willie was really excited because his team was playing real well. And then something really sad happened. The right fielder, Danny Grimes, was running after a ball, and he tripped on something and hurt his leg. And he laid out there and hurt real badly. And the coach had to go out there with the trainer, and they looked at him and they carried him in. And they said, Danny Grimes won't be able to play the rest of the game. We're not sure if it's a sprained ankle or if it's a broken ankle, but we don't want him to play because it could make it a lot worse, and we don't want that to happen. And the coach said, well, he said, we're going to have to put a substitute in for him. He said, Willie, you're going to be playing right field in the next inning. Well, he said, me? You want me to go out there and play? He said, the score's just 2-2. And the coach said, hey, Willie, you're the only one we have. Go out there and try your best. And the coach knew that Willie wasn't really the best player he had. But the coach said, go on, Willie. And Willie went out there in the right field. And the score was really close. 2-2. I mean, it was going into the eighth inning. And Willie didn't know what to do. He was scared. His heart was beating real hard. And he knew that this was very important. And so his team got the first man out. And he got the second man out. And then up came Slugger Smith on the other team. Slugger Smith was their best player. He's the one that always hit the home runs. And Slugger Smith looked up and he looked out there in the right field and he saw Willie and he smiled, just like, I know where I'm going to hit the ball. Because Slugger knew if he hit it out to Willie, Willie would probably miss it, and maybe he could score a run and his team might win. So Slugger Smith got up there and he took his stance on the team, on the plate, and he was ready to go, and they threw him a ball. The first one was not a very good pitch, and it was outside, and it was ball. The second one was a ball. And the pitcher knew that he was going to have to get one over the plate if he's going to strike Slugger Smith out. And he put one over the plate, but it was too good. And Slugger Smith hit that ball the hardest he's ever hit a ball in his life. And it wasn't real high, and it wasn't real long, but it was low and hard. It was just like a rocket. It went, man, was it hard. And it was right for Willie, right to him. And Willie kept saying to himself, stay in front of the ball, stay in front of the ball, don't let it get past you, keep your glove, use both hands, keep your glove out front, use both hands, stay in the front with the ball, and the ball hit him, bang, oh wow, knocked him over on his back. And he laid there on the ground looking up in the sky, and he felt in his glove hand, he didn't have the ball. He felt in his other hand, he didn't have the ball. And then he looked on his chest, and guess what? There was the ball. And he picked it up, and he held it up, and the team started cheering, you got him, you got him. If the ball doesn't touch the ground, and you can stop it from touching the ground, that's an out. And so Willie put Slugger Smith out, and it was the third out, and they got to go into the next inning. Oh, wow, was that exciting. And so they went into the next inning, and Willie finally had his turn to go up to bat. He was scared to death. He didn't know what to do. Maybe he did know what to do. What did Mr. Ty, well, excuse me, it's Ty Cobb. I know who he is now. What did Ty Cobb tell me? He said, keep your legs apart, bend your knees slightly, swing the bat even with the ground. Make it even with the ground and straight as you possibly can. Keep your eye on the ball. Watch the ball the minute it leaves the pitcher's hand to all the way it comes to the home plate. So Willie got up there, and he swung the first time, and it kind of dipped down a little bit, and that's what Mr. Tice told him not to do. And he thought, oh nuts, he missed that, strike one. And the next time he hit the ball, but it just barely nipped it, and it went on back, and it was a foul ball. Strike two. Oh boy, Willie's heart was pounding, and they had 2 outs already on his team, and he knew he was the only chance the team had. And he said, watch the ball, watch your knees, watch your legs, hold the bat carefully, keep it off your shoulder, and swing it parallel to the ground. Make it as flat a swing as possible. And the pitcher threw a real good pitch, and Willie hit it, and bang, it went right over the shortstop's head. And Willie took off and got all the way to first base, and he ran all the way down to second base, and they threw the ball in, and they didn't get him out. He was on second base, and his heart was thrilling, was pounding, and the team was cheering, and they said, "Willie hit it! Willie hit it! Our Willie hit it!" Everybody was not only thrilled, they were pretty well surprised, too, because that's the first time they've ever seen Willie hit a ball. And then the next hitter came up on Willie's team. He was a pretty good hitter, but it was getting pretty scary. He had 2 balls on him, and finally he had 1 strike, and it was 1 strike and 2 balls. And pretty soon it was 2 strikes and 3 balls. And this next pitch was the big one. Either they're going to walk him or he's going to hit it. And so the kid that followed Willie swung and hit the ball, and it was a blooper. And it went up in the air, and it went right back to the second baseman. And the second baseman said, "I got it, I got it, I got it." And just as he was ready to catch it, he tripped backwards and fell down, and the ball fell on the ground. Willie ran to third base, and the batter got on first base. Oh, were they thrilled. They were really thrilled. They had 2 men on bases, 2 outs, and the next batter came up, and he was a pretty good batter. And the pitcher knew that was the best batter on the Yellow Jackets, and he had to be careful how he was going to pitch him. And so he pitched him pretty carefully. In fact, he pitched him outside the plate so that the boy would have to reach out to swing for it. But the boy was a good hitter, and he knew that if he just reached way out, that he could miss it and it would be a strike. And so he kept his eye on the ball. And the pitcher finally decided he's going to throw a good, real hard ball that nobody could hit. I mean, it was going to be a real good strike ball. And he threw as hard as he could, but he also lost control of it. And it went over the catcher's head. And Willie, the coach on third base, said, "Willie, go for home, go for home." And Willie ran for home. And just before he got to home plate, he tripped and he slid head first right into home plate. And at the same time, the catcher ran back and got the ball and threw it to the pitcher who was covering home plate, and the pitcher swung around to tag Willie out, but Willie wasn't there. Willie had slid underneath the pitcher's arm, and he was safe at home, and the Yellow Jackets won 3-2. Yay for Willie. Everybody was thrilled. And Willie looked up in the stands, and he saw his dad. His dad had seen Willie catch the ball out there in the field. He saw him make his first hit, and he saw him make the winning run. And his dad, everybody cheered, and they all went up and shook Willie's hand and patted him on the back. And the coach came over and he said, "Willie, today you're our most valuable player." He said, "You're the hero of the game." And Willie's dad came down and he said, "Willie," he said, "I'm very proud of you too." He said, "I didn't know you could play baseball that well." And Willie said, "Well, Mr. Ty Cobb helped me out a lot." And he said, "Who?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell you about it, Daddy. He was a famous baseball player, and he was in my dream, and he's the one that I practiced with in my dream about what to do and what not to do with the baseball." And Willie's dad said, "Well, I might start practicing with you if you don't mind. I might throw the ball to you and let you hit it and let you catch it and things like that." And Willie said, "Dad, would you?" He said, "I would be thrilled to death." He said, "If you could do that," he said, "I know I'll be a much better player." And so they were very happy, and Dad had got all his supplies, and they drove back to the farmhouse. And Dad said, "I think I'll drive around back to the barn so I can unload my supplies." And as they went around the side of the house, Willie looked up, and guess what? There were 3 bales of hay stacked up beside the barn. "But that was a dream," Willie said. "That was my dream." His dad didn't know anything about it, and his dad said, "Willie, did you put those 3 bales of hay there?" And he said, "I don't think so, Dad. I'm not sure." He said, "Maybe your mother did." He said, "I just wondered why she would put them out there by the side of the barn." And Willie kept looking at those 3 bales of hay, wondering, was it a dream, or was it really Ty Cobb out there? Who knows? I'll never know. And so Willie's dad, Mr. Kilmer, went inside and said, "Mom," he said, "did you put the bales of hay out there?" And she said, "No, I saw them out there this morning, and I thought maybe you put them out there." And Mr. Kilmer said, well, I didn't. He said, I don't know how they got out there, but he said, we'll have to put them away so they don't get wet with the rain. And Willie said, Dad, I'll help you. So they put the 3 bales of hay away, and Willie went into his room, and he pulled out the Ty Cobb card, and he looked at his picture, and he said, Mr. Cobb, he said, I want to thank you. I want to thank you a million for all the training and everything else. And he said, I still don't know how you did it, but those 3 bales of hay was out there this morning when we got home from the game. And he said, I'll always remember you. You are my hero. And so that's the end of the story. But Willie ended up being one of the best baseball players on his high school team in later years, all due to that wonderful dream he had.